Hey everyone, this is Tania Unzueta. I'm with Mi Gente. I'm our political director. And you can see on the screen there, we're going to be broadcasting the debate between Biden and Trump today. And you'll be hearing from a couple of us, Mi Gente and friends, joining you for live conversation, hangout slash analysis slash we'll point out the things that we know are connected to our organizing. So feel free to watch with us here or watch however you're consuming this and chat with us, ask us questions, listen from our conversations. And so this is part of Mi Gente's Fuera Trump campaign, where we're trying to make sure that Trump is out of office in November. And you can check out more about the campaign at fueratrump.com. I wanted to welcome our host for the night, Jerónimo Saldaña, who
Hola.
a raccoon right now. Jerónimo.
¿Qué onda? Este es Jerónimo. I am a coon for the night. I'm ready. I got Vaporú in one pocket. I got tequila in the other pocket. I got a rosary just in case we need it, but I don't think we're going to need it. Vamos a ver qué pasa. Later on in the night, if you're still watching, I might turn into a dinosaur. I might turn into a sandwich. All Latinx, of course. Y gracias. I'm super excited. Tanya, and we have other amazing familia in the house. Did you want me to intro? Do you want to intro the fam that's here to watch this exciting event con nosotros?
Introduce us to who you invited.
La super meta Jess Morales Roqueto of so many amazing things that we would have to take 3 hours for all the amazing things she's doing. Jess, ¿qué onda?
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. This is already the most fun debate time I've had in many, many years. So this is what a treat to be here. I will not turn into a fox or a dinosaur, but I will probably yell at the TV screen.
The eso. And of course, the amazing Jennifer Epps Addison, straight from the surf, mi gente. She was in Venice, California, surfing the waves, getting the feeling, getting the love, getting the vibe, just to get ready for this battle. This is Madre. We have Ugly Chris Wallace. So Jen, if you want to introduce yourself to our gente.
Hello, mi gente. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being the political home where we get to dream about what is possible in this country and where we are not limited by binary choices, but guided by our deepest values and the care for our families and communities. So excited to be here. I'm also maybe a few glasses in because I decided to start the drinking game during the pre-show coverage. So this will be a good night for all of us, I think.
Eso. And for drinking rules, Tanya, what are the drinking rules? When do we drink every week? How many shots of tequila, of NyQuil? I'm going to be shooting NyQuil because I can't do this shit. I can't. I'm going to pass out. What are the rules for tonight's games?
Diversion of choice. I think whenever anyone gets maybe the word socialist gets thrown out, we'll say maybe whenever Trump uses immigration to talk about his own presidency, and I'll do one more whenever he talks about the support that he has from police and ICE. I don't know if others want to throw in anything else.
I love it.
Anytime one of them accuses the other one of wanting to defund the police, we should all drink to defunding the police.
Yes. How many times is Joe Biden going to say malarkey? Are we going to get a malarkey from this vato? Is there going to be any malarkey of any sort?
There will absolutely be malarkey, and I predict he will say it at least 3 times.
Ooh, I love it. I'm in. I want some of that action. I'm going to say he's going to say it 5 times, and if he does, I will donate to She Se Puede. Is that the org you just launched? Eso. Vamos.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. All right. If you win, I don't know, I'll do a Mi Gente donation.
Ooh, está bueno. Es a deal. Right. Gracias. Oh, it's starting. They're both wearing the same color suit. Why dark blue, do you think?
A lot of people.
So I know this from experience. They do actually test which ties.
You nominated Amy Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make? and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
He said President Trump.
I will
No
tell
me
you
gusta.
very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have
Yeah.
a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way,
Damn, he hit us with the elections
some of
have
her biggest
consequences in the first
endorsers are very
30
liberal
seconds.
people
Think
from
about
Notre
that.
Dame and other
But
places.
he
So
lost
I
the
think she's
popular
gonna be
vote, and the
fantastic. We have
racist
plenty of
electoral
time,
college gave him the
even if
election.
we
What
did
is
it after
this
the
esto?
election itself. I have a lot of time after the election.
100%. And even
So
if
I
he
think
wins a
that,
second
she
term,
will be
he's on track
outstanding.
to
She's
also
going
lose
to
the
be,
popular vote again, which
as
is like
good
basically
as
never happened.
anybody that
Like,
has served on
there's
that court.
no mandate for
Terrific.
him at all.
We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected
Well,
by
and
all.
let's
He's
be clear,
single
it's the
greatest
exact opposite
student
of
he's
what
ever
every
had. He's been a
Republican was
professor for a
saying in
long time and a great speaker.
2008, you know, as
And
Obama
we
had the
we
opportunity
won the
just before
election,
the
and therefore
2016
we have the right
elections
to
to
choose
seat as
her.
another
And very
Supreme
few
Court
people
justice, and Mitch
knowingly
McConnell
would
blocked
say, I don't
Merrick
like voting
Garland
with the
and refused to
Democrat,
even give him
and
a
would even
hearing.
think about not
So
doing
they're
it. If they had,
flip-flopping.
the
This
only
is about
difference is they're trying
politics
to do
and
it faster.
partisanship, not about
There's
the
no way
Supreme
they would
Court
give
or
it
our
up.
justice system.
They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they
Speaking of
didn't
Supreme Court
have the
justices,
elections.
I think I
They
remember
missed
Jen
out.
getting carried out of a
Certainly that would
Supreme Court
happen in New
hearing on
Jersey.
C-SPAN. I was like,
Definitely
wait a
would
second,
happen.
I know that
So we won
person.
the election,
How
and we
many
have the right
times
to
have you
do
been
it.
kicked out of federal hearings?
President Trump, thank you.
During the
Same
Supreme
question
Court
to you,
Kavanaugh
Vice President
hearings, I think
Biden.
I
You
was
have 2
arrested
minutes.
7 times, but I was
First
the
of all,
second woman arrested
thank you
on the
for
first
doing
day of the
this.
hearings, right behind
Order
the
this, Mr.
incredible Linda
President.
Sazor.
Mm.
We got to
American
figure something
people
else out,
have a
folks, though,
right
because
to
they've
have a
got these
say in who
buildings
the
closed
Supreme Court
down. So our
nominee is.
tactics
And that
around
say
Kavanaugh will
occurs
not be
when they
effective
vote for a
around
United
this
States
next
senator
justice. We've got to
and when they
update,
vote
and we
for
need
the
more
President of
people
the
in
United
the street
States.
for sure.
They're
Eso.
not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as
And
president, who
also,
they elect as
impeached
vice president.
presidents should not get
Now,
Supreme Court
what's at
nominees.
stake
The
here is
end.
the president's made it clear.
No,
he wants to get rid of the
este cabrón,
Affordable
he
Care
paid
Act.
more for
He's
sex
been
than he did in
running on that. He
taxes.
ran
I
on
mean, if that
and
should
he
just be a
just-
lie.
Damn!
If you're paying more
And the
for
Supreme
sex,
Court
and
right
also
now
I
is trying
bet
to
you,
get
I
rid
saw
of the
Cristela Alonso
Affordable
on
Care
Twitter,
Act,
hilarious joke. She
which,
wrote that
will
the
strip
electricity in the
20
White House
million
is probably in Barron's name. Ese
from
pobrecito, his
having
credit's probably
insurance,
fucked.
health insurance now,
Es
if
seriously, la agua, todo
it
se va a
goes into
pagar.
court. And
That's amazing.
the
Also,
justice,
he
and
owes
I have
$400
nothing, I'm
million.
not opposed to the justice.
Who does he owe $400 million to? Is like a
She's
question
written
I
the
want
she wrote the
somebody
bench, which
to
is her
ask
right,
tonight. Like,
that she thinks
I know
that
exactly who
the
I
Affordable
owe,
Care Act
and
is not
telling me the
constitutional.
credit card
The
companies
other thing
will
is,
come after me.
if it's struck down,
Like,
what
who is
happens?
coming after his
Women's
shit?
rights are fundamentally changed. Once
I'm gonna go
again,
Putin for
a woman
100.
could be held
Yes,
because she has a
eso.
pre-existing
Oh,
condition
that
of
was
pregnancy.
Crystal. Funny
They're
story.
able to,
Crystal's a
they're
mi
able
gente
to
member
charge
from
a little
Boston,
more
and she
for the
tried to
same
kill me.
exact
She
procedure
tried to
and
make me eat soap. It was some
Yeah.
fancy soap.
And
Mi
that
gente was
ended
given out to
when
members.
we, in
She
fact,
told me it
passed
was
the Affordable
Mexican
Care Act.
candy, and I was like, fuck
And
yeah,
there's
vamos.
100 million
So
people
for
with
all you
pre-existing
watching, if you see
conditions,
Crystal, don't
and
eat the
they'll
soap.
be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions,
Hi,
insurance
Crystal.
companies are going to love this.
But
And
just
so
what
it's
did she
just not
Puede say
appropriate
about the Supreme
to
Court
do
pick?
this
What are you
before
telling
this
your
election.
folks, your members,
If
your
he
gente?
wins
What are y'all
the
activating,
election,
mobilizing
and the
to do?
Senate is Democrat or
Yeah,
Republican,
I mean, for us,
then
like
it
part of
goes
what we're
forward.
trying
If
to
not,
just
we should
really
wait
help
until
folks
February.
understand is
There
like
aren't 100
why the
million
Supreme
people
Court
with
matters
pre-existing
and
conditions.
why
As far as the
it
say is
affects the
concerned,
elections.
people
What
already have
we
their say.
heard overwhelmingly is folks were really sad to hear about RPG, but
Said
maybe
very
weren't
very
100%
strongly.
making the connection
some
between
point,
those two things. So like,
10 years
I
ago
think
or
he's
so,
that's
she
a
said
you
the
know the thing these
president
folks
and
don't
the Senate
know.
is
The
elected
only
for
way
a time.
to
When a
get
president
into
is
the
elected
Supreme
for 4
Court
years,
as
you're
a
not
voter
elected
is
for 3
to
years.
like
I'm
vote
not
for the
elected for
president
3 years.
because that's who picks
So
it.
we
So
have the Senate,
you know,
we have a
it's
president.
really scary because the
During
Republicans
that
have
period
at
of
least
time,
2
during that
opportunities
period
to
of
try to
time,
move a
we
Supreme
have
Court
an
nominee
opening.
between now
I'm
and the
not elected for 3
inauguration
years. I'm elected for 4
of the
years.
president,
And
and
100
that
million people,
that's a lot
you
of
know,
time to be
100
told
million
down.
people
It's
is
a lot of
totally
time.
wrong. I
So
don't know where you got
yeah,
that number.
we're
The
really
problem
just
that
trying to make sure people understand why this is so important.
180 million people with
Eso, right
private
on.
healthcare.
And if folks want to get more info and she se puede, what's Fuera? What did I miss? I wasn't paying attention. What did he say?
Gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one,
The rules around this thing are so
he
weird.
knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what your
that is-
party has said.
That is simply.
Your party
It's so
doesn't say
sad
your
that this
party
is
wants
what
to
we're
go
debating
socialist.
instead of
Your
how do
party
we
is
ensure
being
everybody
socialist
has
right
health
now.
care.
I
We're
am the
they're gonna
debating
dominate
like
you, Joe.
who's
You
going to
know
better
that.
I am
protect
the
private
Democratic Party
insurance.
right now. The
Our folks
platform of the
definitely deserve
Democratic
better than
Party
that.
is what I, in
Yes.
fact,
And how is that like the
I-
thing that
I'm
like
gonna say-
loses votes? I feel like I always like
it's
this
going to wipe out.
this idea
And by the
that
way,
protecting
20,
companies is the
200,
thing that
200,000
gains you
people who
votes.
died
Is
on his
But it's
watch.
also toned down to the
How many of
pandemic. I
those
understand
have
that was
survived?
the argument in the
There are
primary,
7
but I
million people that
guarantee you,
contracted COVID.
were the
What does it mean
pandemic
for
to
them going
really
forward if you
hit
strike
that
down
first wave
the
in
Affordable Care Act?
February
Joe,
or
you got
December instead of in
308,000
March,
military
we would have
people
had an
dying because
entirely
we couldn't
different
provide them
conversation in
proper
the
health care in
primary.
the
And
military.
now
So
there
don't
are
tell me
40
about
happy
it.
to
million
talk
people in
about
this
And if you
country
were here,
whose
you
health
could
care
save
was
some
tied to
money.
their
There would be 2
employment,
million
who are
people
going without
because you
health
were very
care
late on the
because we
draw.
have this
You didn't want me to
ridiculous
ban
private
China,
insurance
which was
system
heavily
that no
infected.
other
You didn't want me
industrialized
to
country
ban
in the world
Europe,
has.
Gentlemen,
So
which was
this is a
heavily
place where I
infected.
think
You
we
would
have
have
to
been
push
much later,
Biden,
Joe.
even as we
Much
fought
later.
at Trump.
Mr.
You're
We
President,
got to
about 2
push
million
Biden on
people.
this
You're not
on
gonna
this
as the moderator,
question of health care.
we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court.
Mhm.
In the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot.
I-
Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the ballot?
said
It's not on the ballot.
it's on
Tough.
the ballot in the
I don't
court.
think
So
so.
this is the
I mean,
antics that we were
View
warned
on
about were
Roe
coming.
v. Wade.
Yeah, I also feel like it's a big
Well,
deal
all
that
right,
Biden
all right,
brings
let's
up
talk.
abortion. Like he's definitely shied away from that in the past.
We got a lot of
So
time,
I'm really
so-
surprised to hear that. That's
on
a
healthcare, and
I-
then we'll come back to Roe
that's
v. Wade.
that's what he's trying to make to
President,
folks like us. I'm surprised by
We'll
that.
hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys,
3
general,
white men on TV at the same time. I can't do this. It's too much güeritos. The güerito viejito power is just overwhelming me.
If I may ask, my
Just
question
the turkey.
Sí. Gobble, gobble,
last 4
gobble,
years,
gobble, gobble,
you
gobble,
have
gobble, gobble, gobble.
repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a
Nada.
comprehensive
Oh,
plan to replace
burn. He's got
Obamacare.
nothing.
I got rid of the individual
I'm going to
mandate.
give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual
said, "I got
mandate.
rid of-
which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
That's a
comprehensive
good thing
plan.
that
That
he
is
got rid of the
absolutely a big
individual
thing. That was
mandate.
the worst
I
part of
didn't ask you,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe.
The
The individual mandate was the most
Yo,
unpopular.
Yeah.
this dude is
Obamacare. I got
wild.
rid of it.
Fuera,
Like, we
cabrón.
need to protect people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like
Ooh.
to ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go ahead.
You better
You-
get big on
These
him.
4 years
What?
have never come up with a
trying to
comprehensive
box him out.
plan to
Vamos.
replace Obamacare. And just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what
Eso,
is
Corina knows. Corina's the librarian, so shout out to all the librarians out there who are throwing away Donald Trump's books and who are burning that book. I think that's fine. I don't mind that happening with my taxpayer money.
I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year
What?
period. in
80
government.
or
You didn't do it.
90%?
Nobody's
He's
done
gonna
it.
That's
Idioto.
bring
a
them down.
lie.
That's like
Yo.
he's gone up under the Trump administration. That's wild.
Wait, but did any of you do mock debate or mock trial in like high school and you went up against that dude who just made it? You knew he was making up every fact. Like he was quoting statistics and you're like, where did that shit come from? That's what we're
Yes.
watching right now. Dude is just like making it up on the fly.
No, you know, if it ends in 5 or 0, it's almost always a made up number. Real fast
You'll be
like that.
sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of
But
your
what
points.
does Biden need to do? How do you, so in debate class, if the cabron is lying, how do you combat that? What do you have? Do you lie too? Like, what do you do? How do you win?
The argument that he
I mean, I
makes,
think
or
that's the
Republicans
issue
make,
here. It's like
is
Biden has
that
got
is
to
going to end
transition from
private
arguing
insurance.
tit for
It is
tat
will-
to Trump
Right.
to
Thank you
actually
for the
presenting a vision that
It
he and the
will end
Democrats
Mm.
hold.
It
And
will
I think,
end
you know,
private
in
insurance
debate,
and
you
free
would ignore
government
that fact
takeover
and you
of
go
health.
It
straight
does
to the
not. It's
vision
only
and then
for
bring
those
it back to
people
how
who are
you'll
so poor
accomplish
they
it.
qualify
So
for
let's hope that
Medicaid
Biden will not
and can
get
get that
thrown
free.
by these
In most
antics and will
states,
actually
because
get
governors
out a
want to
vision
deny
to really
people
convince
for
people that,
Medicaid.
you know,
Anyone
they
who
can
qualifies
trust him
for
to lead
Medicare
this country.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, I
right.
think he's in a little bit of a
automatically
bind, right? Because
be
he wants to
enrolled
prove
in the
that
public
he is
option.
strong and can attack and
Right,
take on
most
Trump,
people
which is
still
really
not
important.
be in
I
that
think,
option.
especially for
So,
convincing
You
persuasion,
agree
like
with
a
Bernie Sanders
persuasion
and
voter, and
manifesto.
also
Socialized
has to
medicine.
talk about what he's trying to do. It's tough.
Listen to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by
I'm-
much.
I'd like to beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here.
Awkward. I'm gonna take a break
That
right now.
hurts. If
Yeah.
anybody has the tequila, can you pass it?
Yes.
I got very lucky.
That should have been a shot.
Ooh, I know. Yeah.
What?
Sure, because
With what?
here's the deal.
It could still be a shot.
Everything he says
Oh.
is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make
You
sure.
graduated last in your class,
I-
not first in your
I-
class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy, the wrong night, at the
Oh,
wrong.
wait, did we just have a dick
Here's the
joke
deal.
in the
Sanders,
middle
I
of the
was-
presidential debate?
Yes, we
Is
did.
that
I
what
think
just
we
happened?
did. That's all the bottle. Drink the bottle. Dick jokes are worth a bottle of booze. Oh my god.
Literally, we're not even 20 minutes in, and we
Agreed.
just had a dick
Bernie
joke in the
Sanders
middle
got a
of the
plan.
presidential debate. This is
Okay.
crazy.
Are we allowed to have a
Yeah.
banner that accounts the dick jokes for us? Can we have one dick joke has happened already?
Mr.
I-
President,
He
That's
is
right.
not
This is going down fast.
help
Ay, Dios mío. On a
needing
higher
help.
note, Tanya was on PBS. Tanya, how was that
Yes,
experience?
Because he, in fact, already has
Tanya.
10 million people their health care.
It was
And-
very good. It was
His
talking
reception.
about our campaign that we
Number
did here in Georgia for Stacey Abrams 2 years ago.
Obamacare. If he wants to take
but-
it away,
Yeah,
It was so good.
that she
It was
could be
so
next.
good.
do take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
3.
health care.
So now my 8-month-old son is allowed to watch 2 things on PBS: Sesame Street and Tanya. I'm like, take your pick, kiddo. ¿Quieres ver la Tanya? ¿Quieres ver Big Bird?
Done a
As you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen,
This is
realize that
ugly. This is awful. Do you think the debate is actually changing anyone's mind? Like, is anybody actually moved by this?
It's no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to
No,
make very
I
early
don't
on.
think so.
To
I mean,
avoid the
honestly, what we're
individual
seeing like over and over is that there really are not a ton of undecided voters, but there are people who are deciding whether or not to vote at all.
Wow.
They shouldn't even vote about it.
And so, like,
Choice to-
is
I
this
let my
to
people run
convince
it
them
really
to
well.
vote?
Well,
No,
bad.
I don't
If
think
run
so.
it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want
But
to help
this is,
people.
I feel like this is where
Well,
That's what
this
he
is where we've been trying to come in, right? As organizations who are doing work around elections. And I feel like that's what Fuera Trump is about. That's what the work of a lot of us has been, of like community organizations, right? That like, I feel like we know that the Democratic Party hasn't done the effort. We know that they don't know how to talk to our people. We know that our demands like make more sense with a Biden presidency than a Trump presidency. And damn, like it feels like it's also up to us to talk to those people to make sure that they vote.
promising a healthcare plan since he got elected. He
Totally.
has
I mean, honestly, it's like
what he talks about.
part of what we've been doing at Care in Action, which is the
This man
our
doesn't
work
know.
with domestic workers is like just, oh my God, vapor rub. Yes, that's what we need. Will that fix
If
this?
Senate
I
Republicans
hope it will fix this. The powers of vapor rub are so strong. Can we smear it on all of them? Okay. Anyway, but then going back to what you said, like I think what we've heard over and over again in our calls with domestic workers and other women of color is like actually what they want to know is like why should they vote? And I don't think that when you watch stuff like this, they're making a case about why you should vote. And so I feel like that's where we have to like step in the breaches to like really make that case. And I do feel like we're the best folks to do it because you know, neither of you guys are connected to community.
No, nada, nada.
The issue is the American people should speak.
Well, you don't think that Mar-a-Lago is a community?
You're in voting now.
Fair.
Know how strongly you feel.
He charges admission to his community and his name is on the wall.
Let people know.
He doesn't want
You're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why would
because
you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question.
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is your
up, man?
listen? Who is on your list?
Yes. Eso.
Drinks
Eso.
for that
He's
one.
gonna
He
back
just
the
told
court.
the
We have to-
president to
I
shut
love
up
it.
on national TV.
Yes.
This is where we're at.
That was really
Yeah, this is
What
where
is
we're
going
at.
on?
keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
Oh,
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an
That
awfully
deserves a
serious-
Selenas.
Can I just say there is
We
like
have
literally
more than
not enough
7
money in the
million
world. Somebody could
cases
pay me to
of
moderate this
coronavirus in the
debate.
United States.
No.
1,000
Like,
people
I feel like
have
Chris
died.
Wallace
Even
definitely drove the
after
like
we
short
produce
straw for
a
real.
vaccine. It could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is based on
Jen,
what
what
you
is
have
CPD Action doing now? I know y'all have been really engaged, getting out the vote, texting. What are you doing for the next 30 days?
Why should the
Yeah, I
American
mean, I think
people
we've been
trust you
partnering with
more
movement
than
organizations,
your opponent
like the Dream
to deal with
Defenders
this
and others,
public health crisis
on,
going forward?
you know,
In this
United
case,
Against Trump, just
the
really trying
question
to
goes
make
to
sure
you
that
first,
people
sir,
understand
and
what's
then
at stake in this election and that it's much bigger than personal preference. It's really about harm reduction and you know, stopping fascism. And then we've been working with our affiliates in 7 key states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Florida, Arizona, and Georgia, which we think are the difference makers. We did the math and we realized that we could actually win the Electoral College without getting a single white voter from 2016 to change their vote, just by going after the available and eligible Black and brown voters in those 7 states. So we've been really focused on trying to make sure that we help affiliates like Black Leaders Organizing for Communities and, you know, folks like Detroit Action and Make the Road Pennsylvania help turn out their base.
He said he didn't tell
Incredible. I didn't know that's incredible. Wow. Wow.
Panic, the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes.
I just don't trust anything that Trump says around COVID. Like, I feel like, I don't know.
Millions of people would have.
I don't know why anyone would.
Why?
You mean you don't trust the guy who said he's
They stopped it from going in.
Yeah, like he purposely said he's downplaying
When you
COVID.
talk about numbers,
You know, so in the Woodward interview. So I think we have a reason not to trust him.
You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight.
This also makes me really think Joe Biden talking about Wuhan really makes me think about.
And you said he's xenophobic. He's
like
a racist.
QAnon stuff and all these conspiracies.
They should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
At our hand and in our community.
Close our country because you thought it was
for real. If you are hearing your family
closed
talk
it for
about
another 2 months. By my doing,
5G and other crazy conspiracy theories, like that is legit. The Trump campaign like targeting us, so we have to really. I'm so afraid of that.
We worked with.
I want everybody.
Go
like,
take a look.
Gotta be.
Governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that.
Because it came up, my grandma literally the other day, like started talking about it, and I realized that she was like becoming the victim of misinformation. It's really
the gowns, we got the masks, we made the ventilators.
Yes.
He's just talking about governors and how governors can say that he did great. And like, I live in the state of Georgia where Kemp is our governor, one of the like governors whose
The only thing I
been
haven't
so
done
forward
about
about following Trump's plan,
Yeah.
and it's one of the
No matter
states
what
where
you
the
say,
COVID
you make
like
a bad person.
infections and deaths are rising
You go
incredibly, and like literally, I feel like our
Because that's the
protection
way
plan
it
is like stay
unfortunately.
home if you're
You can
sick
say something.
and
I
like
don't
get
care.
tested.
You
Like
say,
there's
"I'll take you."
no
would never
support for workers who need to be out
Yeah.
of
You don't
out of
have
work. There's like
never done that.
everything is open. There's no
I know how to do the
information.
job.
That's like
No.
what's happening in states that
Swine
are following Trump's
flu
lead.
and N1.
Absolutely. I mean, fun fact,
Fourteen
our partners,
14,000
Masks Across America and Be a Hero team,
died.
actually raised money to provide masks to frontline
There
workers and
was
essential
no
workers. The
saying
Trump administration
There
intervened,
was no
stole
one,
the masks
nobody
directly from the
in the
postal
economy.
system and took them from us.
Economy at
So
speed.
that's, that's how
We did
he's
shut down
rolling.
because,
And I
look,
think this is actually a
look
really
at
good
home.
point
How
for the
many people
Democrats,
won
which is,
and had an empty
these
chair?
Republicans have had 7 months. The HEROES Act has been sitting on their desk for over 5 months.
Where you
They've
lost your
done nothing to support people in their time of need
Mhm.
because of COVID. And yet here they are trying to rush a Supreme Court nomination in with weeks until the election, right? You don't have any time or energy to actually pass COVID relief, but you have enough time to try to steal this election through the Supreme Court. That's what Democrats should be hitting them on, not some idea of fairness,
And he
because
held it, he said,
Republicans will
"We
never play
wear a
fair.
mask, we can save
Never.
half those numbers, just a mask." And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. We trust as a scientist.
You don't
We
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
and
gentlemen, let me
What's
move on
that
to
vaccine will have like
questions about the future
hydrochloroquine or
of
whatever it
Europe.
is that people were taking because of Trump in it.
I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your 2 words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slawi, the head of your Operation Warp Speed.
We got a lovely comment from Elena Schlosky-Fitch, checking in from Brooklyn, New York. Tired watching Emilion, but so glad you were here. Oh, that's very sweet.
Political than say
Oh, we're so glad you're here too.
Yes,
gracias. Pfizer has spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot.
We have all the best pharmaceutical companies that we're going to cut their profits by 80 to 90%.
The head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slawi.
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office too.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available. not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away.
I feel like he's been lying this whole time.
I was going to say, and be like, that's a lie.
What is the
Like
thing
every
past the
single time.
lie? It's like what's when you go
Yes.
past lying? What is that?
Right.
Like
Yes.
alternate reality or something?
by the warm weather, it'd be gone.
By the way, on Sunday, we're doing an interview. Mi Gente's doing an interview with Christine Urquiza, who's the co-founder of Marked by COVID. She's a young person who
This man is talking about a vaccine.
started organizing against the COVID deaths after her dad passed away. So
Ay, Dios.
Vaccine done by the end of the year.
200,000 people have died, mostly Black and Latinxes, no?
Beginning or the middle
Yes.
of next
Our
year.
gente, Dios mío.
I mean, I think that's the most important thing as we kind of just about their back and forth, like this question of why even vote. Like we need to vote because who we vote for will determine how many of our people continue to die. And I fundamentally believe, while I don't, there are a lot of policy differences I have between myself and Vice President Biden, I fundamentally believe that less of my people, less of my familia are going to die under Biden than under Trump.
Concerned about the vaccine?
Yes.
Are you?
And I feel like there's room to push him. Like there's room to say, like, you need to be doing this differently and better. And with Trump, like, we have nothing. It's like we know what that's been for the last 4 years. And
Senator Harris.
hey, Nalini.
Nalini! Oh my God! Nalini! Can we get a song? I was looking at my Twitter today and I saw Nalini singing a record. She cut a record. She's on tour. What is going on?
I am not on record. I did release the EP today, and then our chorus releases our album next week. And I'm watching this debate with all of you.
That are in
Pretty
charge.
crazy.
They will have the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment?
And I'm just kind of pissed off about this COVID stuff right now.
Lies he's
The
told
fact
you.
that like Trump
He still hasn't even
it's
acknowledged.
ridiculous.
He knew this was
We've been
happening.
spending most of the time yelling at Trump, saying that's a lie.
Yes.
Even
But he's like literally a liar. Like he is talking about swine flu, like and like as if it was the same level of pandemic. I mean, it was terrible. People lost their lives, but acting like he has done stuff is ridiculous. And also lying about other countries is kind of crazy.
You went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of
Used
your
to it.
You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Wait, is Donald Trump
Wow.
college records?
47 years.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
Let me just tell you
That's
something.
ridiculous.
If you would have had
What is
the
going
job
on?
what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
We're
it's
going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
When are we gonna get to the 400 million in debt, though, Wallace?
Yes.
When?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on like 20-year-old men talking about their college.
How virus
Like,
is handled going
Really,
forward.
Chris,
Where are they finishing their college class? It's insane.
That's
Several of those reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that to
them
Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And
and
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer.
What is he doing? What is this
He won't
That's
stupidity?
his
This
thing,
is-
though. His thing is like make a
Republicans won't
slogan,
And he-
right?
he's-
Like crooked this person, you know, yeah, and then just like
think about it.
You
it's
probably
literally
think more than
it's
I
like
do,
what we
Jim.
do on playgrounds.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country,
Oh,
and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a
he
great thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We
This
just can't
makes
do
me
it.
like
We had
all
to
my
because we
inner
didn't know
mom
anything about the
genes are
disease.
just
Now we
wanting to
found
like shake
that
my
elderly
fingers and be like,
people
kid,
with
I'm gonna
heart
turn this car
problems
around.
and
Like,
diabetes and different
Yes.
problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot.
I'm
Young children
gonna head
aren't.
out. This was so
Even
fun.
younger people aren't. We've learned a
thanks,
lot.
Jess.
So
Love
glad.
you.
Thank
Shut
you.
it down.
Everyone,
More people
Bye.
will be heard
Listen,
by
Dave.
continuing.
Thanks
If
for
you look at
everything.
Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states
Yes,
that
yes.
have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of
How
the
long
reasons
is this
they shut
shit? I
down is
can't
because they
handle
wanna
an
keep it
hour
shut
of this.
down
Is this
until
more than an
after the
hour?
election.
This
All
is
right,
the
I wanna
first
move on to another
Because
subject.
it's a
I wanna
political
move on to another
I
subject.
But
I wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well. They're
Tanya.
shut down.
Which is
right now.
gotta
masks.
respond to that.
President
What's it?
Trump,
It's just
you
like
have begun
pena, pena,
to
like Jacinta says. It's
increasingly
just
question
like
the
I can't
effectiveness
handle
of
like
masks as a disease
external
preventer.
shame.
And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a
Ay,
mask on,
Dios.
you know, when I think
Ay,
I need
Dios.
it.
Tanya,
Tonight
if
is
I
an
wanted to get
example.
involved
Everybody's had a
right now,
test, and you've
and
had
I'm a Latinx
social
person,
distancing
I
and
want to
all
join
of
mi
the
gente,
things that
what
you
do I
have to
do?
do.
How do I get
I
there? How
wear
do I make it
masks
happen?
when needed. When needed, I wear
Go to
masks.
Okay, let me ask-
I
fueratrump.com
don't wear masks like him.
and
Every time
sign
you
up.
see him, he's got a mask.
That
He could
means
be
that like
speaking
you'll get
200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest
connected
mask
to
I've ever
events that
seen.
are happening in
I
key
will say,
battleground
Vice
I will
states
say
of the
this.
Vice
country,
President Biden, go
fighting
ahead.
in North Carolina,
Look,
Georgia,
the way to
Florida,
open
Arizona,
businesses is give them the
and
wherewithal
trying
to
to
open them.
get people to vote against
We
Trump. I
provided
mean,
money.
the thing is like
Asking about masks.
the only
masks make
like
a big difference.
across the
As all
country,
head of the
it's
CDC
the
said if we get
Republicans
more
who are
masks
knocking
between
on
now,
doors.
if everybody wore
Republicans are
masks
talking
in
to
social
people who
distance
are
between
people,
now and January, we'd probably
and we
save
just
up to
like
100,000
yeah,
lives. It
we
matters.
just need
And
to
they've
be
also
able
said
to
they've
let
also said
people.
No serious person said the
Yeah, we just
opposite.
need to be able to talk to
No
people.
Well, look,
serious
all right, I wanna
Dr.
ask you-
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did
I
not
want
say
to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly.
Dr.
minute left.
Fauci, I feel like we
We're all
should-
like
Not
yelling.
good. Then he changed his mind. He said mask good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject.
I'm
because
okay with
your
masks.
different approaches has even affected the way that
I saw
you
this
have
meme
campaigned.
that like
President
explained the
Trump,
use
you're
of
holding
masks
large
by
rallies
talking about people
with crowds
peeing on
packed
each other.
together, thousands
Like
of
if you
people
have no
Outside.
pants on and you
outside.
pee
Yes,
on
sir.
somebody,
Agree.
it's gonna
Vice President Biden,
it's gonna
you are
head,
holding
you know,
much
it's gonna like
smaller,
go right onto them.
events
If they
with
have
nobody
pants
will show
on,
up.
they'll get
People
less
with-
sweat. And if both of you
Smitten.
have
Nobody
pants
shows
on,
up to his
then
rally.
you
All
will
right.
just
In
pee
any
on
case,
yourself
why
and nobody
you
gets
holding
wet.
the big rallies.
So that's why we
why
should
you
use
not?
masks.
You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars, and
about
we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the
I guess Herman Cain
experts.
dying of
And we
COVID
do
right
them
after
outside.
his
We have
Trump's
tremendous
rally in Oklahoma is
crowds,
no
as you
problem
see.
whatsoever.
And literally
Yes.
on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Yes, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't, I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl.
I really hope
We've had no negative
that
effect. And we've had
Joe Biden
35,
is
40,000
All right,
people
doing the
at
right
these
thing
rallies.
Just
saying he
quickly
doesn't
finish
give a
up because I
fuck
want to
about
move on to our
people.
next.
Yes, I would.
Excuse my
been
language.
totally
I know it's your
irresponsible
on live
the way in
stream.
which he has handled
But like
the
he's
social
doing really
distancing,
great at
the
being like
people
he
wearing
doesn't care
masks,
about anybody.
basically
He
encouraging
doesn't care
them
about
not to.
anybody,
All
and
right.
that's
And
that.
he's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen,
Joe.
can we move on
Nobody
to the
cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
economy
Oh man.
is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown
Much
This-
faster.
in the second quarter. The
That people are
unemployment
getting
rate fell
sick.
This
to
is terrible that we
8%
have to
last month.
actually
The
accept
Federal Reserve
this
says the
framing
hit
that the
to growth,
economy
which is
is
going to be
recovering
there,
faster
is
than
not
ever.
going to be
It's
nearly
because
as
we base
big
an
as they
economy off
had
of
expected.
record corporate
President
profits
Trump,
or
you
off
say
of the
we are
stock
in a
market
V-shaped
and not off of how many people can
recovery.
afford their mortgage or
Vice
what's going to
President Biden, you
happen
say it's
when
more
40
of a
million
K
people who are unemployed all
What
of a sudden
difference
don't have
does that
eviction
mean
moratoriums anymore,
to
are
the
now,
American
now
people in
being
terms of the
evicted from their
economy? President
houses.
Trump, in this
I
segment,
really
you go
hope
first.
Biden pushes
So
back
we
on the
built
idea that the
greatest
economy
in
has
history.
recovered.
We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it
Oh,
down,
full
which
out
was very
racism.
hard
Okay,
psychologically.
I think
Because
it's
he
time
didn't
for
think
a
we should
shot.
close it down. And
He
he was
went full
wrong.
on xenophobic
And
now.
again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000
I got my
people
white
is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down and now we're reopening.
Oh,
And we're
and you know
doing
what?
record
I'm
business.
wrong. I've been
We
saying
had
40 million
10.4
people.
million
That was
people in a
3 months
4-month
ago. We're
period that
now
we've
at
put back
62
into the
million
workforce.
people.
That's a record the
62
likes of
million
which
people
nobody's
who have
ever seen
filed for
before.
unemployment.
And he wants to
Oh
close
my
down.
God.
He will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns.
What
And I'm
is
telling
this?
you, it's
Jesus
because
Christ.
they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw
And in
that.
those states,
Oh, we're
we
going to
have
open
less
up on November 9th.
like
Why
rates of
November 9th?
infection,
Because it's
people
after
being
the
more
election.
supported when
They
they
think
can't go to work. I mean, it's not
they're
perfect
keeping them
either,
closed.
but
They're
damn.
hurting people. People
Also,
know what to do.
20
It's
million
social
plus people are
distancing. You wash
still
your hands, they can wear
unemployed.
masks, they
What
can
are
do
they
whatever they want.
talking
But they got to
about?
open these states up. When
They're
you look
talking
at
about the
North
fact that Jeff
Carolina,
Bezos
when you
made
look, and
$40
the
million in
governors
the
are
span
under
of 2
siege.
months because of COVID.
Pennsylvania,
They're not talking
Michigan, and
about
a
how
couple of
regular
others.
people
You
are
got to open
actually
these
supporting
states
their
up.
family
It's
right
not
now amid
fair.
the
You're talking
pandemic.
about almost it's
And
like going to
Biden is
prison. And you look at
responsible
what's
for
going on
pushing
with
back on that.
divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and
Pandemic.
drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right, your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and
How's
billionaires like
Biden
you
doing though? I
in the
haven't
middle
really
of
been paying
COVID
attention.
crisis have done very well.
Is Biden doing awful, or do you think he's holding his own? Is he like?
They
Well,
made
he's
another
saying it right
$300
now. He's
billion
saying billionaires and billionaires have
because
done
of
well.
his
This is good.
profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns
Scranton.
and working class towns in America.
Always
Yeah.
Scranton.
Shout out
For
This
Scranton.
guy paid a total of
Yes.
$750 in
wrong?
taxes.
Sir,
Any
sir,
millions.
wait,
How
wait,
many-
no, sir. It's
It's
just
the wrong stuff.
Taxes, it's
understand.
on.
You've
It's
agreed
ready.
to the
It's
2
time.
minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he is, in fact, worked on
Access
this
could have been
in a way
another
that
shot.
he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office, having
Can I
fewer
just say I'm
jobs
liking the
in his
voice that Biden
administration
is using?
than when
He's
he
got like
became
a
president.
slow jam,
job.
kind of
And when he became
sexy.
the first one in
Like,
American history.
you
Secondly, the people who have lost their
Somebody
know,
make the
jobs
remix.
are those people who have been on the front lines,
go
those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it.
Oh.
And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he
Biden
take
needs
care
to
of the
go
American?
there and
You
say he
can't
wants
fix
to
the economy
sacrifice your
until
grandma
you fix the COVID crisis.
for
And
Jeff
he has no
Bezos
intention of doing anything
to get a
about making
third
it better
house,
for
or
you
I guess
all
it's probably
at
like a
home
30th
in
house.
terms
I
of your
really
health
don't
and your
really
safety.
understand how
Schools.
billionaires
Why
work,
are
but I think
schools
they have
open?
more than 3 houses.
Because it costs a lot of money to open
He's
them
about
safely.
to be a trillionaire,
You know,
remember?
they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers
I
and
wanna
school
forget
students
that.
masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency, not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses, nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir.
I like
We're going to get
that.
to.
I
We're
have
going
to
to.
respond
with
to that.
that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I
People
look at
want
New York.
their
It's so
students
sad what's
safe.
happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover
Literally,
what they've done in New York.
literally
People
teachers
want
are
their
like, we are
places
going to
open.
strike in
They want to
places
get
where they
back to their
never were.
people.
They
They'll
don't
be
want to go back to
careful,
school.
but they want their
What
schools
is he
open.
talking
I'm
about?
the
It's
one that brought back
nonsense.
football. By the
Now,
way, I
you
brought
live in
back
New York.
Big
Is it
Ten
a ghost
football.
town?
It was me, and I'm very happy to do it.
No,
And
All right, let's-
people of
let's-
Ohio
not there right
are
now,
very
but it's not a
proud
ghost
of me.
town.
And you know
We're
how
going
I
to get
found
back.
out? When he took a
Gentlemen,
phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as
I'm
president,
taking a little
that
break.
you
I'm
paid
watching my favorite baseball moment when Kirk
$750 a
Gibson
year
hit the
in
game-winning
federal
home run
income tax
with
each of those years.
3 balls, 2
I know
strikes.
that you
Smashes
pay
it out.
a lot of other taxes, but I'm
But this is
asking
a
you the
tax hit.
specific question.
So let's
Is
see
it
how
true
that
that you
goes.
paid
Ooh,
$750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in
Oh,
taxes, millions
bullshit.
of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your
1
tax
year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as
Show
it's done.
them.
You'll see it.
Yes,
We've
la
been talking about, we
boca.
don't see
Board
it
of
since
Elections, there's
2016. We've been about
118
to
page or
see
so
these tax
report.
returns.
That's everything I have, every
Mhm.
bank I have. I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good. And we have a very.
So he's not 400 and some million dollars in debt?
But let me tell you.
I
His
understand all
assets
of
are
that.
extremely
I
good.
understand all of that.
But
I'm
let me-
no, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars. And you'll get to see it.
I-
And you'll get to see
Well,
it.
this fool
But let
just
me
keeps
just argue.
lying. He'd be like,
Chris, let
what
me
sounds
just
good
say
in my head?
something.
Millions? Yeah, let's go with
It was
millions.
the tax
Millions
laws.
of
I don't want to pay tax because before I came here, I was a
dollars.
private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through.
We've had
law, and that's what it is. You
random
passed a tax
members in
bill
some of our
that gave us all these
members of community
privileges for
organizations very
appreciation
proud
and
that
for
get
tax
a lot more
credits.
taxes
We
than
built the
Trump.
building and we
Whether
get
they're
tax credits like
undocumented,
the
whether they're
hotel
working
on
class,
Pennsylvania
like,
Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive.
I mean, and it
By the
shouldn't
way,
be
it
like
was
no one
given
should
to me
be
by the
like it shouldn't be this unfair. But
administration,
yeah,
if you can believe that. Now the man got
Yeah,
fired
no,
right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do
Well,
wanna
also, he just made the
Oh,
perfect
the
argument
tax
as to why
code
private business
made him-
people should not be running
put him
our
in a
government,
position
because he
that
said,
pays
oh,
less
as a private
tax
business
than a
person,
school teacher
like I should be
made
greedy and I
than
didn't
the-
want to
on
pay
the
any
money a school
taxes.
teacher
Well,
makes.
that's the
Is
point. It's
because
why you're
of
supposed to have
him
government and
he
why
says
private
he's
business
smart
people
because
are
he can
not the
take
folks who should
advantage
be
of
in
the
charge
tax
of making
code.
sure that all
And
of
he
us
does
have what
take
we need to
advantage of the tax
survive.
code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts, and
Good.
I'm going to eliminate those tax
Okay.
cuts and make sure that we invest
said
in the
that's
people
okay.
who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because
I
you
wanna-
weren't
Why didn't you do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done
That's
more in
so.
47 months. I've done more than
Burn.
you've done in 47
That's
years.
that
Joe.
meme with the
We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
We're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward. because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan,
So wait, is the military no longer
if you were to be
broken?
elected president, focuses a lot on big
Confused.
government, big taxes,
I
big
am not even
spending. I
gonna-
want to
no.
focus first on the
Trump acted
taxes.
like he
You
like
propose
people are
more
still
than
signing up
$4 trillion
because they're
over
poor
a decade
to
in
be in the
new
military.
taxes.
And then you have
on
Vanessa
individuals
Guillen
making more than $400,000
and
a year and
now
on
soldiers
corporations.
who are getting
President
killed
Trump
up
says
their
that
hood.
that kind of an
And he
increase
says
in
something about it, but
taxes
doesn't talk about it.
is
Please,
going
you don't
to
give a,
hurt the
you
economy
don't
as
give
it's just coming
a
out of a
bleep
recession.
about our
Well,
armed
just
forces.
take a look
And
at what
he doesn't give
is
anything about
the
demilitarization,
analysis done
where we
by Wall
actually have
Street
to be at.
firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would
I mean, while
create
we're at
an
it, we can
additional
also
$1
defund the
trillion in
military
economic
industrial
growth because it
complex,
would
but
be
I don't think
about
they're going to debate that
buying
tonight.
America. That
Mm-mm.
we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
Bellini, where can people buy your
talking about
album? How do we
taxes now.
support? How do we hear?
Well,
How do we
by the way,
watch
I'm
you
gonna
on tour?
eliminate significant
Yeah.
amount of tax. I'm going to make the
Well,
corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be
out on
21%.
Spotify.
You
and
have
stuff.
19
can
companies,
actually,
91 companies,
October 8th,
federal, I mean,
this
in
story
the
comes out
Fortune
from the
500 who don't pay a
Consumer
single penny in tax,
and
making
it'll be out
billions
on
of dollars.
Apple
Why didn't you do it
and
before when you were
Spotify.
vice
And it'll be
Because
up on
Obama.
because you in fact passed
All
that.
right.
That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
Also,
Get it
how
done.
do
And
I
you know
get
what
to
happened?
be
You
like
got it
you?
done.
I
Our
want to be
economy
a
boomed
little
like
rock.
it's never boomed
The economy
before.
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me
let
finish.
me, Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
But let me,
Excuse me.
but in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the
What we-
slowest economic recovery since
We
1929.
have
Let me
the
talk about the
highest
stock market.
unemployment
When the
since the
stock
Great
market goes up, it
Depression.
means jobs.
It's
Yes,
actually
If
insulting
you got in, if you ever
Like,
became president with your
to
ideas, you want to terminate
minimize
my
how
tax,
much pain
my
people
taxes.
went
I'll
through
tell you what,
in the
you'll
Great
lose
Recession.
half of the companies
really
that have
is
poured in
insulting.
here will leave.
And by the way,
plenty
there
of
after the
actually
companies that
hasn't
are
been a
already here, they'll
recovery
leave
for
for
majority
other
of Black and
places.
brown people
They
who
will
lost
leave,
things like
and you
their
will have a
houses,
depression the likes
all of
Right.
their
you've never
economic
seen.
security in
We
2008.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history.
Jen
I was
T.
asked to bring
Alvarez
it back.
Edith agrees
We
with
were
you. We
able
need to
have an
defund the
economic
military.
recovery that created the jobs you're
Woo-woo.
talking about. We handed
All
him
right.
a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew it.
booming.
He
It
blew it.
wasn't booming.
It
It was
was-
it was the weakest
Well, sir,
recovery
is it
since
fair to, wait,
$1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait,
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said
they-
it would
they-
take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not bring it.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
All
industry.
right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to
They're
Ohio.
not having.
And they
Mr.
didn't
Vice-
come
wait,
in
wait,
with you.
Mr. Vice President.
Híjole, Biden's
So
stammering a
take
little.
look
It's
at
not
what he's
looking good.
actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the
I
same
think
way.
it's really
He talks
like,
about these
I'm
great
just
trade
trying
deals.
to imagine
You know, he talks about the
if
art
in
of the deal.
every
China's
argument I had with
perfected
my
the art of the
husband,
steal.
he
We have
just
a higher
lied.
deficit with China now than we did
Stop.
before.
At some point,
We have
I'm
the
like,
highest
what am I-
deficit trade
like, how
deficit
can I
China
with
fight
ate
this way?
your
Mexico.
lunch
All
down
right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe. And
but-
no wonder your son
Damn,
goes in and
China
he takes
ate
out
your lunch.
what he takes out billions
Oh,
of dollars.
Okay, Hunter
Takes
Biden,
out billions of
that's
dollars.
a
of
Ooh,
money. She
tapas
makes
de la
millions of dollars.
boca.
And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma?
None of
We
that.
don't talk about Russia.
is true.
Really don't talk about
None
Russia.
of that is
question, let
true.
him answer. If-
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't
Totally,
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
Greg.
Mr.
Totally-
President, please. ask
totally
a question.
discredited. totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
that is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
I wish he would just go back at him.
You-
Who's going to pay
you-
out your
it's a fact.
$400
Well,
million
there-
that
you
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 have
not.
want
raised an
people
issue.
next
Let
year?
the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Why are we
There was a
debating
report-
Hunter Biden
183,000 a month
at the presidential
with
debate
no
stage right
experience
now?
in energy.
Mr.
Look,
President,
My
job.
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Oh, he took
Mr.
the bait.
only
He
guy
can't
who-
Let him
take the
answer.
bait. Oof.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly
By
discredited.
who?
And
The media.
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of
Dude,
fact,
Mr.
even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oth.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
And-
Joe.
and-
no,
under
no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even the
you.
people under
He got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
he testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I did
really?
it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them. No,
No,
testified.
no, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most
I
of
love
them
this.
because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some
Big
people do
props
well.
to
Here's-
Amanda who's running
With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say
You get
here's
the,
the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the
our
final
live
word.
studio.
It's hard to
Well
get
done.
any word in
Tápate
at
la
this point.
boca.
Excuse me. This
Hey, let me just say, Joe.
No.
No.
Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
that is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already
family,
No, let him go.
my
Let-
family
already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
and that's
Every-
such a
they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
President.
my
coming and
family or his
helping us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your family.
They
The
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5
Good job,
million.
Biden. Let's go.
That's
Yeah.
not true. It doesn't
There you
make
go.
want
control.
to talk about what
Straight to
you
camera,
need.
baby.
You,
Let's do
the
it.
American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of the,
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
It didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a
President.
That was a
it's-
solid
no,
close.
Can I be
by
honest?
Biden.
It's a very important
Try to be
question.
No,
honest.
I-
He
That's a good
stood
thing.
up.
No,
He stood up.
Wait,
the
did he
answer to
just
the
say
question
try
is
to
no.
be honest?
Ukraine
No,
Did y'all hear
sir,
that?
with $1 billion.
Sir,
If you
That
get rid
is
of the
you know what, you're-
absolutely not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape
You're-
doing it.
you're gonna
This
have-
is a shit
True.
show.
Gentlemen.
What the fuck is this?
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but I
on
see it seems
tape.
to be,
I
why
feel
should I be
like
different than the
debates
two of
2 and
you?
3 are
So here's the
definitely
deal.
up
We
for
have-
reconsideration after this point.
6 segments. We've ended
Yes.
that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about
Oh,
something else, go
Lord.
ahead.
I
Oh,
mean,
we're on.
do
It's
we
us.
really-
Let's get ready. Come
Would be
on.
better
Why is
served
the race
if we
question the one
allowed
he gets
both
to
people
say
to speak
anything he
with
wants
fewer
on?
interruptions? I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more
Well,
interrupting
that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than,
Come on,
sir,
Wallace.
less
There's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible
Oh, hell
exception
no.
Oh, my
of Abraham
God.
Lincoln. My question for the 2 of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you
I'm
go first.
scared, y'all. I'm
It's
scared.
about equity,
know.
and equality.
Uh-oh.
It's about decent. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from
No,
trying
bro,
to
it's about
acquire
white supremacy. Get
equity
it
for
together.
everyone, equality for the whole America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said, there were
Heather
very
Heyer, say her
fine
name.
people on both sides. No president's ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Finish the
It
statement.
is who's
Now,
2
second-
minutes, sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done
Dele, Joe, dele.
The fact is that you have to look
like,
at what he's
I'm not sure if
You
Biden has
have to
all the
look at what he
solutions,
did,
but I
and
know
what he
Trump
did
is
has
going to
been
kill us.
disastrous.
Exactly.
Like,
So
Again, this
President Trump,
election
you
is
have 2
harm
minutes.
reduction.
Why should
Who are our
Americans
people
trust
more
you
likely to
over
live
your
under? Are
opponent
the
to deal with
most of our
racism?
Did a
people
crime
more
bill,
likely to live under?
1994, where you called them super
Can I just
predators,
say how
African
fresh we have been
super predators, and they've
demanding
never forgotten
Democrats
it.
repeal
They've
and
never
replace the
forgotten it, Joe.
1994 crime bill.
So you
And
did
now
that,
we
and
have
they
a
call you
beautiful
super
visionary
predator.
piece
And
of
I'm letting
legislation
people out of
given to us
jail
by the
now that
Movement for
you have
Black
treated
Lives
the
called the
African
Breathe Act.
American
And this
community,
whole
you have treated the
conversation right
black
now,
community about as
we
bad
can
as
blame Trump,
anybody
but
in
we
this
think,
country. You did the
this is a moment in
1990,
which
and that's why,
Democrats need
if
to
you
have
look
some
at the
ownership
polls, I'm
because it
doing
is
better
their
than
lack
any
of movement
Republican has done in a
on the
long
demands
time,
of the
because
streets,
they
on the
saw what you
demands of
did. You
folks who have
called
been
them
uprising
super
that
predators, and
allows
you've called
Trump
them worse
to
than
even
that, because you
go
look back
down
at
this
your
line of attack
testimony over
right
the years,
now.
you've called them a lot
So
worse than
we
that, as
need to
far as the church
really,
is concerned. And
both
as far
close
as
this
the
gap,
generals
and
are concerned,
every
we just
Democratic
got the
candidate
support of
and elected official should be
250
supporting the
military
Breathe
leaders
Act
and generals.
right now,
Total support.
right here,
Law enforcement,
and to
almost
take
every
this
law
line of attack
enforcement
out of
group
Trump's
in the United
repertoire
States.
right
I have
away.
Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to
law
lose all of your
enforcement
radical left supporters.
was
Why aren't you saying those words?
Stop.
So why don't you say the words law
Tanya,
enforcement?
your
Because
mom's watching.
you know what? If they
Saludos a
called us
señora
in
Rosy
Portland, we would put out
Carrasco.
that
Hey,
fire in half
hey.
an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look,
We've had close
they
to
knew
over
coming in the
close to
following
5,000
day, and they
people
put
watch
up
this
their
thing.
hands, and
We're
we got
doing
back
good.
battle.
Shit, that's pretty impressive.
Minneapolis,
I don't even want to watch
back,
me.
Joe,
Well
because
done.
we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top
Ay,
40
Dios mío,
cities
Trump is so full
are
of shit.
run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe.
He
to a
pardoned
point where
Joe
you don't
Arpaio,
want to say
who mi
anything
gente
about
proudly
law
got
and
rid
order.
of.
And I'll tell you
Huge
what,
props
the
to mi
people
gente
of
and the
this
crew.
country
Carlos
want
Garcia,
and
who's
demand
now a city
law and order,
council
and
member
you're
in
afraid to
Phoenix.
even
It's
say
pretty
it.
damn incredible.
I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is
Híjole,
call
bad apples. Ay, Dios.
together
I
an
think
entire
mi gente's
group of
position
people
que
at
no
the
is
White House.
officially to defund the
Well,
police,
everything
to
from civil
abolish
rights
ICE,
groups,
que
the police
get rid of this
officers, the
chingadera,
police
que no?
chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're
It
going to work
is,
this
but
out.
I'm
So
not
we
sure that the
change
majority
in
of the
which we have
people
more
did. And so
transparency.
I feel
And
like
when these things happen,
as we
these cops aren't happy
criticize
with Steve Bannon.
Democrats and elected
George
officials
Floyd.
about like their
These
position on
cops aren't
policing
happy
and
to see what
argue
happened
for
to
defunding the
Breonna
police,
Taylor.
I also
Most
think
don't
there's a
like
lot of
it,
convincing
but
of
we
our
have
own
to have a
people. Like if you
system
ask
where people are
Latinos,
held accountable.
I'm not sure
When,
that
and by the
everyone
way,
would say like we
violence,
don't
the
want police.
response is
And I
never
think it is because we haven't
never
imagined
appropriate.
alternatives. We
Peaceful
haven't made that
protest is.
possible.
Violence
But
is
I just
never
think that there's
appropriate.
like
What is peaceful protest? When they run
yeah, I
through
mean
the
it's still a harm
metropolitan
reduction
and
question,
burn
but
down
like
your stores and kill people
President
all over the
Trump,
place.
that
and
is
you
yeah,
say
I just think
peaceful
it's like
President
no,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not. But
asking-
you say it is.
President
not
Trump,
say
I'd like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead.
race.
Oh,
I
now they've
promise we're
moved
going
on.
to get to the issue of law and order
Please.
in a moment.
Fine.
This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity
All I wanted to say is that we
training
need to push
that
our people as
addresses
much as
white
we also push
privilege or
politicians
critical
Sí.
so
race
that
theory.
like those things actually
Why
matter.
did you
Eso.
decide to do that, to end
I don't
racial
think any
sensitivity
people
training?
also, like,
And
everybody's
do you
not, like,
believe that
you
there
actually
is
go into
systemic
my head,
racism in this
people don't want
country
to get rid
still?
of the police.
I ended it because it's racist.
And that's like a
I
real
ended it
conversation
because a
we're
lot
about
of
to have.
people were
And we have to
complaining
struggle
that they
around
were
it.
asked
Still
to do
say
things that
defund.
were
We have
absolutely
to also make
insane,
sure that we're still
that it
uplifting
was a
invest,
radical
like
revolution that was
reinvestment
taking place
and
in our
reallocation,
military,
because I think that
in
that's been
our
lost in a lot of
schools,
our narrative as
all
well.
over the place,
Yes.
and you know it, and so
Because
does
that's what people
everybody
are
else.
about. People are
And
like,
you would
yeah, I
never
want my
talk
school
about
funded.
Racial sensitivity
So the
training.
options
If
on the
you were
block,
a
right? Like
certain
they're like, I want
person,
my school
you
funded, and
had
so I think
no
it's really
status in
important,
life. It
as
was
much
sort
as
of a
we're saying the
reversal.
defund that we're
If you
saying,
were
reinvest,
we were
reallocate
paying
too.
people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas, and really they were
He's
teaching
talking about
people
racial
to hate
justice.
our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
He's talking about the little
We
thing
have to
he
go
did, the
back to
American
core
teaching kit.
values of this country.
Ay,
They were
Dios.
teaching people that our
I have a
country
degree
is
in
a
Chicana
horrible
Chicano
place,
studies.
it's a
I
racist
guess that
place,
would be
and they were
terrorism
teaching
now.
people to hate
That
our
would be
country.
illegal.
And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that
Did Biden take Chicano studies?
racial
Ay,
sensitivity, people have
Dios.
to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly,
happened
it was
in
more
Oakland?
violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
But the
Lord.
reason
Talking about
is
the,
that the
ridiculous.
Democrats that run these cities
ridiculous.
want to talk like you
I
about
don't.
law and
This is
order.
how bad
Violent
this is.
crime.
Are you in favor of law and
Well,
order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead,
Yes, I'm
say
a
it.
favor.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order.
Law and order.
Let him
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down
He-
much more.
he
in
has-
ours.
All right, we're down.
He is
You're,
China
of
Mr.
the
President, you're going
United
to,
States of America.
We
Mr.
were
President,
breaking every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And
we're now going to
excuse
talk
me,
about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
cities
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes.
Hey, I know that, baby.
Like
What's
Tulsa
up,
and
baby?
Fort Worth.
He doesn't want to now. You know what? If he sees this when he's older, you know what he did today? He took a
think it's
poop in his
funny.
in his
Give you a couple
diapers,
of
and I tried to lay him
examples.
down to clean him. He stood up. There was
Anyone in
caca coming
Chicago
out of the
where
nalgas. Ay, Dios mío.
53
It
people were
was a
shot
mess.
and
It
8
was a
died
mess.
shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen
Geronimo was
it,
talking about the
it's going up
baby in the
100,
picture.
150, 200%.
That's the baby is not so good with the
Not the
diapers.
Trump, not Trump. He's not
And
talking
he
about.
doesn't want to say law and order because, he can't, because you'll lose his
New York, as a
radical
New Yorker,
And once he does that,
and
it's
up
over.
against
But
this New
if
Yorker,
he ever got to run this country,
the reason why
they
crime
ran
is
it the way he would want to run
people
it.
don't have
We would
jobs.
have
We
our
would
Oakland
run it
where
suburbs would be gone.
we had
By the
thousands
way,
of
our
people die
suburbs
a
would be
day.
gone, and you would see
Mhm.
problems like
Literally
you never
would-
seen.
know a
I'm like,
I'm gonna oddly
long
turn
term.
this
I know
on
suburbs
so I
would
can
go
be
away.
seen.
I was
Hey,
raised
So I
hey.
can, just so I can show up on
before
camera.
1950. All these dog racism don't work anymore.
Yeah, we're good.
Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or
And then I can just
black
drop
and
you.
white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety. It's his failure to deal
The
with COVID. They're dying
suburbs.
in the suburbs. His failure
They're
to deal
talking
with
about
the
that.
environment.
Trump brought up the
They're being
suburbs,
flooded.
saying that
They're
they're
being
better
burned
off
out
with
because
him
his
and
refusal
whatever.
to
And
do
so
it.
Biden's
That's
coming
why
back.
the suburbs are
I
in trouble.
I
Yes.
do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation, that
What's your
came
favorite
from
Law and Order?
Biden, Bernie
SVU, Criminal
Sanders
Intent.
task
Which
force,
one? Or are they all
we
bad?
talked about
I mean,
SVU
color of
album.
change tells us
reimagining
that they're all
policing.
bad, but I agree with Nalini
First
if
of
I
all,
had
what
to
does
pick one.
reimagining policing mean? And do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the
I mean,
question.
everybody
What
likes
does
a little
reimagining
Mariska
policing mean? And
Hargitay.
do you support the Black
Yes.
Lives Matter
Did you know her mom? I didn't know her mom was a famous actress that
call
died in a car
for,
accident. What's her? Oh, her name's not
more
coming to me.
control of
Yeah.
policing?
look,
What was her
what I
name? The
support
super
is
famous
police
actress
having
back in the
opportunity
60s.
to deal with
I
the
forget
problems
now.
they face.
But I do remember
I'm
that
not
Law and Order,
totally
even
opposed
though
to
I have a
defunding
really
police
tough time with Law and Order because
Matter of
it's the
fact,
number one
police
job
love
for
police.
actors in
The
the
only one
city of New York.
defunding and his budget calls
It
for
was the
Wow.
number one job for working class actors. So when people are like, shut it down, I'm like, that's actually where black and brown and working class actors got jobs. So I hear you. Can we like make them like? Can we just like put a political thing on it? Like make it Law and Order and politics.
Yes, I love it. People are commenting. Elena Schlossky Fitch likes SVU hands down. Bree Rivera likes SVU hands down. Está bueno. Mi gente, people, if you're watching, please let us know. Have you signed up for Fuera Trump? Yes or no? You can sign up for Fuera Trump at, I believe, FueraTrump.com. Also, you can watch Tanya on PBS by Googling Tanya, PBS.
Who do you
Do it
have?
now.
Name one group that
TANIA, PBS. Google it.
Go ahead. Think. We have time.
Is Jacinta watching? Jacinta should be watching this. Jacinta, are you watching? Why aren't you watching this?
Law enforcement group that came out and
I think,
supported
gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There are-
moderator.
Nalini
I
dropping
wanna-
knowledge.
And I wanna
T.
get
Alvarez,
to another
Edith is a
subject,
fan,
which
Nalini.
is the issue of protests in many
Can I
cities.
just say how
that turned violent.
disappointing it
In
is that
Portland,
on the
Oregon,
question of
especially, we had
race, all we
more than
got was two
100
white guys
straight
arguing about
days
who
of
likes the police
protests,
more.
which I think you
Like it just
peaceful
is so.
protests, many
It's
of
such a
those
perfect
turned into
epitome of
riots.
this election,
Mr.
but
Vice
it's also
President,
just so disappointing and not
you
at all
say
worthy
that
of our
people
people.
who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop.
What the fuck? What did I miss? What the hell's going on?
Wait.
Apparently, Wallace
don't
is
hold
arguing
public
for
office now.
fascism.
I
Oh
I'm
my
a little
God.
confused.
Former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted.
Wait,
Anyone who
does
commits
Biden
it-
know? We're watching too?
The
Like,
people-
shit, we
the
still haven't
leaders-
voted. What the fuck is this?
You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
it, bring
they-
in the National Guard and knock
No.
off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the
Let's
way.
fact check. It wasn't 100 days of riots, by the way. Fact
Wait,
check.
wait, I asked him a
Marshals
question.
to get the killer
No,
of the
that-
young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and
Right.
for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
That's just-
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything.
he's
I had a
interrupting
second.
This,
They took
Trump,
care of business.
go ahead,
And-
sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all
I
about.
don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said.
She said that.
I
So
don't think
here-
she
all right,
said that.
Here's the point.
Go
The
ahead.
point is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly and every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to
I
end
mean,
this-
that's
not
facts.
this
He's a
segment, I'm gonna
major
give you a minute to
gaslighter.
answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
You have
just one
repeated. No,
second.
you've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would
no,
love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it. and
You
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats,
we would very quickly.
We could do that. But
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the
I'm,
National Guard. It would be over. There'd be
This
no problem.
moderator
I
is
don't want to
going
accept the
straight for the
National Guard.
You
tequila
have
the second
repeatedly
he is done with this
criticized the
debate.
Ay,
Vice
Dios
President
mío.
for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and
Yes.
militia groups
Sure.
and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha.
What? The
and as
white
we've seen in
supremacists
Portland.
need to
I
stand
don't
down?
know
do that,
specifically.
But
Do it.
I
Go
would
ahead,
say,
sir.
I would say
What a
almost
controversial
everything I see
political
is from the
statement.
left wing, not from the right
Oh,
wing.
he's not
What
answering.
do
He's
you want?
totally not
saying?
saying it.
I'm willing
Not
to do
answering.
And he's
anything
not
I
gonna
want
do
to
it.
peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right
Proud
wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left,
Oh
because
my
this is not a
God,
right
His
wing
own-
problem.
his
This
own
is
Stand
a
back
left
and
FBI
stand
director
by.
This
said
is a
Stand
left
by.
wing
You know
problem.
what that
white
means. Be
supremacists.
ready.
Antifa is an idea, not an
Damn.
Oh,
organization.
you got to be
Not
kidding.
militia.
This
That's
is what
Here's
Democrats
to the
need to
FBI.
understand. This dude
His
is not playing with
FBI
us.
director
Like, he is
said.
all
Well,
full
you know
on
what?
nationalism,
we're done,
and we still
sir.
think
We're
we're like
moving on to the next.
Everybody
debating,
in your
Bad
you know,
administration, that's not an
respectability
idea.
or something.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group,
now moving on to the Trump
and
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to
And
ask.
doesn't
Over-
Antifa literally just mean anti-fascist too? I feel like there's
It
also that
literally,
whole like.
everybody who
and
fought
his
in World
record.
War II is
But Vice
supposedly
President Biden, you
Antifa,
like to
right?
quote
An
one of your dad's
anti-fascist.
sayings, which is, "Don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative." And in this case, sir, you are the alternative.
Also, everybody has to
Looking
drink when Antifa is
at both
mentioned.
of your records.
Oh,
I'm
that's
going to
right.
ask each of
Oh,
you,
where's the tequila?
why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Oh, is this the last question, please?
There's never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con
Ooh,
job.
fancy, Amanda.
I
Well
went
done.
through
Look at
all of
that.
these things. where I had a
Maurice Mitchell.
both
Yeah.
flanks and behind me and above. There has never been an administration that's
Funny
done
story.
what
I worked at
the
CPD
greatest
for 3
before
months
COVID
a couple
and the
years ago.
greatest economy
As
in
I'm sitting in the
history, lowest
conference room, I
employment
looked to my left
numbers.
and I seen the
Everything
Leaning
was
Stamp
good.
frame
Everything was
picture
good.
on the
By
wall.
way,
And that was such
there
a
was
nice moment.
unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was
Just
a
for the record,
mess
Trump
under
did
him.
not
Space
condemn
is
white
my
supremacy.
favorite of all
died
of the
because they
fake,
didn't have proper health care.
American
It
government
was a mess.
institutions.
And we now got a 91%
Which one is it? What is it?
at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets, but we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges,
Ay,
300,
Dios
and
mío.
hopefully 3 great Supreme Court judges, justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges, because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings. And if I were a member
Because
of his
Republicans
party,
blocked so
because
many
they have a little
nominations
different
also.
philosophy,
It's not just
say, if
like
you left
it just sort of happened,
128 openings,
which is
you
what
can't be a
Democrats
good
should be
president.
doing with the
You can't be a
nominations
good vice
now.
president. But I want to thank you
Yes.
because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above
Tanya,
that.
who's the
By
vato on the
end of
left? I
this
remember
term,
meeting him. He was an awesome guy from
300
Kentucky. Do
judges
you remember his
to
name?
Looking at both your
Se me
records,
olvida, but both of
why should
the folks
voters
from
elect
Louisville,
you
yeah.
president
He's an artist,
over
really amazing guy.
President
Ricardo?
Trump
No.
uninterrupted?
Under this president, we become
And Sarah,
weaker,
of course. But good
sicker,
gente, great gente.
more-
Mi gente. Haha.
more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
No,
$3.5 million.
That's right.
Mi-
And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
my
Mr.
son-
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it. And why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to?
Marcos, es Marcos.
Never keeps
Thank
his word.
you,
Can you add
Chris
back-
Murieta from
I'm
Boston.
not
You tried to
asking
kill me
you.
by demanding it. So
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds.
Yeah,
Is
yes,
okay?
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more. just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States.
Give a shout out to Ruby Liz. Sí, watching. Gracias, Ruby Liz. Elena Shvalaski Fitch, Chris Murieta, Roxanne Friedman, Rosy Carrasco,
the way you talk
C.L.
about
Marshall, Roxanne Friedman,
about them being losers,
T. Alvarez, Edith.
and
Feel free, if you want us to shout out to your loved one, let us know. We're doing dedications. Tanya will do a dedication. Nalini will do a dedication. Shout out to homie in La Pinta. Whatever you got, put it in there. We'll read it out.
Was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes. Really? And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about
Hunter? I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
Don't go after his
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow.
That is simply
various
That's Stephanie Yanis and her beautiful baby.
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's
Elana Shvalaski Fitch says Brooklyn in the house. Protect Sunset Park. Are there more people watching from New York or from Chicago? Tanya, do you still rep Chicago or are you repping Georgia now?
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear.
Ooh, I don't want to make enemies. Georgia until the end of the year. Chicago starting in January.
$3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about it. Gentlemen, that report is totally discredited. Mitt Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change? And
that's another one where I just don't believe Trump has any interest in keeping Earth alive.
Air. I want beautiful, clean
because it's that colonizer Western expansion ideology. Take as much as you can while you can.
Phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at
I feel that face, that Biden face of just complete disappointment and
very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
No creo.
We have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project.
It's
very exciting.
You believe that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have
to bringing the energy. OMFG.
I get the call.
Chloe Segal from Louisiana. Says these live tweets are amazing. Victoria Villalba. Fuera. Talking about me? You're talking about Trump? I don't know.
Those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests.
It's been said, but Jerónimo should moderate the next special debate. Ay, Dios mío. It would just be about Squatty Potty. Did you know Squatty Potty is great for going to the bathroom? If you haven't bought one yet, you should check them out. SquattyPotty.com. Thank you. Are they sponsoring me? Have we gotten sponsorship from Squatty Potty?
The governor about it. I'm getting along very well with
it.
Ay, Dios.
At some point, you can't every year have hundreds
Tanya's
of
face is also my face right now. What does that mean? Tanya, what's your face? Kelly Ortiz is bringing the comments.
Sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama?
Should we talk about these gender reveal parties and how they're destroying entire forests?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks.
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there.
Ooh,
That are
Tanya,
10,
do you want to
12
do this
years old.
PSA
If
in
you
the
did that,
comments that
car would
Mihenta
be
just
safer,
posted
it would be
about
much
Sunday?
cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No,
ignored
but you would take a lot of cars
roadmap.
off the market because
Yes,
people would be able to
tune
afford a
Sunday,
car.
7 p.m.
Now,
Eastern for
So,
Fuera
and
live
by the way, we're
stream.
going to see how that's going to go. But a
Ooh.
lot of
It's
people
going to be
agree with
30
me.
days until Election Day on
The cars have
Sunday.
gotten so
Very
Um,
nice.
expensive because they have
and we're going
computer
to interview the
cooperation
founder
for an
of
extra
Marked by
little bit.
COVID,
Obviously,
who's it's a national
and I'm
project
okay with
highlighting
electric cars too. I think
folks
I'm
who've
all for
been
electric cars. I've given big
killed by
incentives for
COVID and
electric cars.
the
But what they've done in
responsibility that Trump
California
has
is just
over it. It was
crazy.
started by a young
Mr.
woman
President, I'd
whose
like you to
dad
respond
passed away of
to the
COVID, young
president's
Latina woman in
climate
Arizona.
change record.
So
But I
she's
also
going to be
want
our
to ask
guest on
you
Sunday.
about a concern. You
Órale.
propose $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels
Gracias, Maya. Very
by
kind. Vamos.
2035, and zero net
Casa
emission of
Blue
greenhouse
powering the
by
websites.
2050.
Thank you, Casa Blue.
President
Casa Azul or
says
Casa Blue?
a lot
Casa
of
Blue.
these things would
Casa
tank
Blue.
the economy and
Casa Blue.
cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong.
Oh,
number
Michelle
one.
wants us to shut
Number
up.
two,
Sorry, Michelle. We'll be
if in
quiet.
fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas
Is it
and oil
crazy
because
to
the heat
anyone
will not be
else
going
that
out.
we're like
There's so many
almost done
things
with
that
this
we can do
debate
now
and
to
there's a
create
Supreme Court seat up and we have not talked about abortion or reproductive justice at
in
all,
terms of
like not
energy
once?
production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating
No,
jobs.
but we talked about it once in the Dem
good paying
like
job.
I don't. We only talked about it like once in like the entirety of 20 Dem debates. What do you think it's gonna be like? Nobody cares. Unfortunately, nobody cares about women's bodily autonomy and people's bodily autonomy.
Paris Accord.
Abortion.
I will join the
It's a
Paris Accord.
very good point.
That's out of it. Look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that
I feel like this is a good time to remind people that Flint still doesn't have clean water.
It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a 100.
So I'm from Wisconsin, and there was an ad against Senator Feingold about a study on methane, and it was called the cow poop study. And there were ads all over the state with a guy, a fake scientist, running behind a cow with a jar, trying to catch the cow's poop. And
Well,
that was
there's
the
1.5 million
anti-Feingold
energy
ad.
efficient.
Oh my
When
God.
Senator Feingold was the
So the
Wisconsin
question
senator.
becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who
Ooh,
support the
Karen
president
Johanna
say
Lopez
that
Acido.
sounds
Jennifer's
like it's
comments
gonna
are on
cost people
point. You have a
money
lot
and
of fans with the Mi Gente
Thanks,
family.
Karen.
Houses,
Well, I'm a
living
huge
jobs,
fan.
good
Like I
paying
said, I
jobs.
think
Let him
it's
finish,
really
sir.
incredible
You know,
for people to build a
they-
political home that is really
fact
rooted
is
in
it's
what
gonna
we
create
deserve and what we
millions of
want for
good
this
paying
country, and
jobs. And these
like
tax
provides a
incentives
real
for
alternative to
people
what
to
we're seeing
weatherize.
right
We
now
want
on the
to
debate
get
stage. So
rid
I'm
of.
very
It's gonna
grateful for
make the economy
all
much
of the
safer.
members
Look
of Mi
what you
Gente out
pay
there
now.
doing
Deal
all
with
the
the
hard work.
hurricanes, with the deal with, by the
Gracias.
way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that
That's
at all.
he did
You
say.
made it up.
You got more
And
costume
here's the
changes
deal.
than
Make up
Madonna,
We're
Geronimo.
going to be in a position where
I'm
we
going
can
through all the
create
animals. I think I got a couple left.
hard, good jobs by
I
making
need
sure
to
the
learn this
environment
because it will
is
make my
clean
like
and we
staff
all
calls
are in
so
better
much
shape.
more
We spend
engaging if I can
$4 billion
be a cheetah or some kind of
on
character.
floods,
Yes.
hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a
we,
minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice
For
president. Why didn't
47
you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does.
This is a
India
really
does.
good
They all
time for
do.
us to
We're
call out
supposed
the
to be
Green
good.
New
And by the way,
Deal, Sunrise
you made a couple
Movement,
of statements. The Green
Representative
New Deal,
Rashida
it's
Tlaib,
$100 trillion.
and
That's
not
Ed
my
budget.
Malarkey.
plan.
Nalini,
Green
you
Well,
at
they
New
want
Working
to
Families
rebuild.
Deal
Party
They'll
had
be
a
is not
dumping.
huge
my
They'll
plan.
rebuild
all right,
hand
Do I
in
know
that
anything
victory with
about it?
Malarkey.
gentlemen,
He made a
about
statement
it?
about
But
the
all of the
military. He
supporters
said
of
I
the
said
Green New
something
Deal,
about the
even
military.
though nobody on
He
this
and his
stage is
friends
talking
made
about
it up,
it.
and then they went with it. I never said it.
okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is
you're
he
done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
And he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He
That is-
said
Mr.
stupid
That's-
bastards. He said
Whoa,
it.
Stop.
stupid
He never said
bastards.
that.
Play it.
Stop.
Play it.
Go ahead.
Careful, guys. The
President
kiddies are watching this one.
answered
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having,
You
a
don't
little
remember
trouble.
much.
I'm having a little trouble
That's
myself, but
Yeah.
and about the
Rachel
economy,
Schmidt
about
supports the Green New Deal. She typed in Green New
The
Deal. She got
economy.
very excited.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the
Yay!
idea of what
The
your
Green
environmental
New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a
Oh!
big statement.
I
That
support
means
the
Right in
you're
our
off the radical
hearts. Come
left.
on,
I
guys.
support-
Help us out.
support
Help
the
us help
Biden
you.
plan that I
Fuck.
put forward.
Okay.
The Biden
He doesn't
plan,
support the
which is
Green New
different
Deal.
than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment. Election integrity.
Híjole.
We meet tonight. Millions of Americans are
Fuck, how much
receiving
more of this shit?
mail-in ballots. We're going to
This
vote
is
This
the last
early.
segment.
home
God.
streak.
Should we be?
I want to
This
hear
will
what
be a
Joe
fair
has to
election.
say.
And what are you prepared to do
If you have
over the
actually
next
been playing
5
the drinking games, you are 3
weeks,
sheets
because
to the
we're
wind
not
right
gonna
now.
do
There's no way you're
electoral
standing up.
counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots.
I
are
just want y'all to
forced
know that after
be
Trump said
manipulated
Proud
and
Boys stand
cheating.
up,
They
it's
said
now
that.
trending
The
number
fact is
4
that there are going to be
nationally
millions of
on
people
Twitter.
Yes.
that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time. and the polls
Yes,
stay
sign up
open
to be
until
a
the
poll
votes are
watcher.
counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting.
And in New York, you should vote on the
Trying
Working
to
Families Party line, right,
to
Lily?
scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate.
Absolutely.
Show
Vote
up
for
and
Joe
vote.
Biden and Kamala Harris.
You will determine the
I know
outcome of
this
this
is not the
election.
same,
Vote,
but I Trump thing,
vote,
but
vote.
on the
If
Working
you're
Families ballot line in
in
New
your
York,
state,
you can
vote
do it.
early. If you're
It's
able
great.
to vote in person,
And
vote in person.
you
Vote
can
whatever
keep
way
my
is
ballot
best
line.
for you.
Stick with Governor
Because
Cuomo.
he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted and they're all counted, that will be accept it. If I win That will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure.
Yes, good job, Amanda. Fuera Trump. Pa la
Determine
calle,
what
cabrón.
it will look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? You get 4 more years of these.
Which can only happen if people vote for Biden,
2 minutes.
just to be clear.
Eso.
That is the important
a
piece
transition.
to that puzzle.
There's
We
been
need
no
to win not
transition
just
from
the
what I
popular
want. I
vote,
won
but
that
the
election.
electoral college,
And
which
if you look at
means
crooked
people
Hillary
actually
Clinton,
have
if you
to
look at
vote for
all of the
Biden.
different people
And don't
that
forget to
did no
vote for all of your
transition, because they
progressives
came
down
after
ballot
me
as
trying
well.
to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our first lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country, and we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster.
Eso. Amanda's fast. Shit, she's on a roll.
Ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found
This
it in
is
creeks.
Trump
They
setting
found
up
some with the name
his
Trump, just
ability
happened
to
to have the name
contest this
Trump
election.
just the
If
other day in
anybody
a
believes
wastepaper
that he will
basket.
accept the
They're being
results
sent
without
all over the
contesting
place.
it,
They
you're
sent
wrong.
2
And he's
in a
rallying up
Democrat
the
area.
Proud
They
Boys
sent out
and his white
1,000 ballots.
supremacist
Everybody got
fans
2 ballots.
to get out
This is
there
going to be a
and,
fraud
you
like
know,
you've never
really
seen.
wreak
The
havoc
other
on
thing,
us
it's
as
nice on
people are
November
trying
3rd.
to,
You're watching and you
people
see
are
who
trying
won
to
the
go.
election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what?
Vote by
We
mail.
won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say, you have to have your ballot in by November 10th.
It'd be nice if somebody
November
reminded
10th.
Trump that he
I
and
mean,
his
that's
entire
7
family
days
vote by mail.
after
I
the
mean, this is
election.
just a
In theory,
ridiculous,
should have been announced.
ridiculous
We have
thing.
major states with that,
Sir,
all run by Democrats.
I mean, Biden said that.
All run
Biden
by
said that's how
Democrats.
Trump
Yeah.
voted.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people
Get him,
voted
Wallace.
mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that
Finally,
cast their
moderators
ballots by
used to it this
mail.
time.
Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And
This is
are
too
you
stressful.
counting
I had to
on
start
the
smoking my
Supreme Court,
cigar.
including a Justice Barrett,
Yeah.
to settle any dispute?
Yeah,
It is
I'm counting on
stressful.
them to look at the ballots. Definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so, because what's happening is incredible. I read today where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are
They
you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots
Wait
going
a
out right
second.
now.
You
Did
go and vote. You do a
What are you talking
solicited
about?
ballot,
No,
and that's
I
okay,
know
or
your
you go and
complaint. I'm
vote.
asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and
received-
vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are you gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of
You
people?
either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden,
5 states have
fact,
had
go ahead, sir.
mail-in ballots.
And
for
by
the
well,
last
he means it's not going
decade
to
or
end
more.
with
5,
him still
including
being
2
our
Republican
president.
states.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows what the
wrong.
outcome
You're
is.
wrong.
I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love counting
Vice
the
President Biden.
Chris,
because
he's so wrong when he makes a
in fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this, because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot, because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally
T.
legitimate.
Alvarez Edith is he talking shit about the U.S. Postal Service.
I have a final
Sending
question.
and swamping the system. You know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already there's been
so
fraud.
now
mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. Final question is, in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president
could be months, huh? He is really signaling
the vice president. I hope neither of you will
Let's
interrupt
be
the other.
Yes.
Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has
This
been
is actually the
independently
most important
certified?
question of the debate.
President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully.
Uh-oh.
because that's
So
what has
no,
to
the
happen.
answer is
I am
no.
urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election.
Natalia,
Like putting
I am
cheese whiz on your
100% on board.
cheesesteak. I mean,
But
that's
if
a
I
very
see
bad thing.
tens of thousands of ballots,
and Natalia Salgado's from Philadelphia,
go
just,
along
you
with
know,
that.
not that there's any relevance to that.
Does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what-
ballots. They're not
Ooh.
equipped. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number
Uh-oh.
two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey,
So
they
his
found
answer is
ballots
no.
in a
He will
waste
not
paper
commit to
basket
not rallying
3
up
days
his
ago,
base.
and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the
Trump
election?
basically
Natalia
just said he was
Salgado
going to
just said
mobilize
he
the
better keep
people.
Philly out
Yep.
his mouth.
They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established.
And people should know that all of our organizations are working on figuring out how to intervene after the election, right? Like all of us are figuring out how to get the votes for the election so that Trump gets out, but also how do we organize people, movement, voters, etc., to make sure that the results are right.
That'll be the end of
Yeah,
it.
and that we can like mobilize so that
And
Trump
if it's
is
me,
out.
in fact,
Every
if it's
vote
not
must
me,
be counted.
I'll support the outcome.
Do not relent.
I'll be a
people.
president
Every
not
vote
just
must
for
be
the
counted.
I mean, I think
I'll be a
Biden
president
won't
for
say it, but I
Democrats
think
and
we have
Republicans.
to. People have
And
to
this
be
guy,
prepared to
I
be
wanna
in the
say
streets
on
and be
ballots.
prepared for
Gentlemen,
civil
you
unrest.
say that's the end of it. This is the end of
If
this
President
debate.
Trump refuses to leave
We're going to
office,
leave it there.
we know that he's got
To
his
be
folks
continued
on call
in
and
more
ready
debates as we
to
go
create
on.
chaos and to
President Trump,
terrorize our families.
Vice
And so we
President
need
Biden,
to
it's
be
been an
activated
interesting
and
hour and a half.
organized.
I
We need
want
to have
thank you both
conversations
for
about what it means to
participating
protect
in the
ourselves
first of 3
and our
debates.
people.
And we wanna
But we
thank
need to
Case
know that
Western
we are not
Reserve
going to just like
University
chill
and the Cleveland Clinic
watching
for hosting
Facebook
this
and scrolling
event. The
Twitter
next debate,
and
sponsored
just
by the
be
Commission
handed
on
a transition
Presidential
of
Debates,
power. We're going to
will be
have to
1
fight
week
for it
from
and
tomorrow,
organize for
October
it.
7th at the University of Utah.
Eso.
The two vice presidential nominees.
No más chingadera. Final word. Tanya, ¿qué piensas? ¿Qué vamos a hacer? Let's go to bed. Ay, Dios mío. Vámonos,
For
get out of here.
sure. Let's go to bed, have some tea, do whatever. No, but I mean, look, I feel like part of the conversation just has to be like, what are we doing, like, for our communities to like live our best lives? And I feel like we can sit here and try to criticize Biden and talk about all the stuff he didn't talk about, and I feel like there's so much to push him on. And I feel like there's things that didn't come up during the debate that are important to remember. I think, like, some folks were talking about immigration not being part of the debate. That's absolutely true, right? Like, and at the same time, I think there's important things that we have gained by pushing the Biden campaign, including this idea that there might be a 100-day moratorium at the beginning of his campaign. It's something that the Joint Task Force like pushed for. It's something that Mi Gente has been pushing for a long time. And so, to me, like, there's so much stuff that wasn't said on the stage, including stuff that we have won as a movement that has moved the Biden campaign forward. And so to me, it's both about acknowledging like the super danger of another 4 years of the Trump administration,
yes.
and the possibility that there's openings for improving our lives actually under Biden, even if we don't think he's perfect.
Tanya, can you say it again? Because the thing, and leaning to the thing I keep hearing from gente on Twitter and Facebook, like it says, like, oh, I don't like Biden. I don't feel like I'm going to vote. They don't understand, right? We don't have, I get it. No es el que queremos, but you just said it. So can you just one more time for the gente that might be a little hard-headed? Why do we have to vote for Biden? Tell us all again, please.
And honestly, I would say like a majority of our people aren't as like perfectionist as some of us organizers are. I think like some of our folks are looking for someone who isn't gonna like call us terrorists because we organize in support of Black lives. And I feel like it's not, we have to be tactical. We can't like be purist. We have to think about our survival and our lives. And to me, that means, very practically, if we're going to get Trump out, it has to be voting for Biden.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's the thing is just like, presidential elections, general elections are not a radical litmus test. It isn't. It isn't where the primaries are ways that we can get our issues forward. That's where we have a terrain of struggle within the party system. But the general is not a radical litmus test. And especially now where legitimately what Trump wants is he wants a stamp of approval on what has been happening to our communities for the last 4 years. And he doesn't care about anybody. He doesn't even care about his own party. He doesn't care anybody about himself and his family. And that is different than somebody who at least we know cares about, the billionaire class and some of the folks. But here's the thing, people who are struggling, people who have had folks die of COVID, who are unemployed right now, need an alternative. And we like the reality is that Biden is the only choice right now. And let's just be really, really real. The Democratic Party voted for Joe Biden to represent them in the general election. Now, we could have arguments for days about this, but that is what happened. It was Black voters, Latinx voters, a lot of voters across the spectrum that voted for Joe Biden, obviously voted for other candidates as well. But I think that the reality is that voters chose Joe Biden, and this is a general election and it's game time. And we must do everything to say pa fuera to Trump. We must do everything to say pa fuera for the fact that he said to the Proud Boys now, stand by. Mm-hmm. For me, there literally is not another choice. And does it suck? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean we stop organizing. It is one day a vote that we have to make, and we have to take to just do that. It is a tactical, strategic thing. And our communities are suffering. And this is what we have. And the reality is that I know I don't want to be up in no gulag or or furthering the camps that we already have, because our siblings are in camps right now. They're facing white supremacist violence. And if Trump has a victory, a voted electoral victory, not a stolen one, but a voted electoral victory, that means that what he has been doing is approved, and it will get worse. And I'm sorry, I don't really ascribe to it's got to get worse before it gets better, because these last 4 years, I've aged like 2 decades. So that is where I'm at, is that like you got to stop Trump, and you got that the way to do it is to vote for Biden, and that's where I'm at right now. So
this is coming from Nalini Stamp and Tanya. You don't get more radical than you two. This isn't like you're two Democrats who've been working for fucking whatever the dude's like Joe Manchin, whatever the fucking Virginia. You motherfuckers like have been arrested countless times. You fucking burn shit down. Don't listen to FBI. Like you are radical motherfuckers. And if you're saying vote Joe Biden, who the fuck is anybody to talk to you to? That's the real deal.
Last thing I'll say, I'll plug some action, FUERAAAA.com. We're trying to be strategic and hit the battleground states where our people are still deciding and like need to remain at those rates to like be able to make a difference. So FUERAAAA.com, check it out. And thank you for watching us today.
Yeah, and if you want to, mi gente is a part of this as well. We're just making sure that people are outside of polling locations, making sure everybody can vote in line and vote safely with PPE. So you can check out electiondefenders.org, where we'll be making sure that folks are safe from right-wing GOP intimidation. And yeah, I really appreciate y'all. And I'm a proud member of Mi Gente, so you should join to be a member of Mi Gente if you're watching.
I'm a member too, very proud. I don't have a website, so I'll just say to go to squattypotty.com. It's good for your body.
Abrazos.